Hello lovely people around the world, God jul and welcome to the second episode in my Swedish Advent calendar. Today it's Advent 1st and I am here to talk about the Swedish Advent preparations and celebrations, and also talk a little bit about the Swedish Advent Fika, because maybe you heard of the concept Fika. If you haven't, Google it, but it's a big thing here in Sweden and we do take it very seriously. But first, let's talk a little bit about the Advent celebrations, or I should rather call it preparations, that we did back in the days. Because historically we had a lot to do in preparations for the Christmas celebrations. We had to make all the food from scratch, maybe bake some bread, brew some Christmas beer, scrub the floor, we hanged tapestries on the walls, and we also put straws on the floor. And in some places we did the Advent fast, or I think you can call it nativity fast. And this was sort of in preparations for the big day, which was the Christmas celebrations. Right now it's really not like that, it's more so the opposite. What was once a very sort of modest time, a lot of preparations and fasting, is now a total food bonanza. And this brings me to the Advent Fika. We have a lot of Advent celebrations, you know, the days and the weekends before Christmas. There are Advent Fika and there are Advent parties. You have it privately, with family or friends. We have it even with our co-workers. And the more we've started celebrating Advent, the more pressure has also added to the mix. Because nowadays you can find Advent recipe after Advent recipe after Advent recipe, you know, online, in magazines. And I actually saw a commercial yesterday that was all about, you know, it's not okay to only serve glögg and gingerbread cookies. You have to, you know, go big or go home. And even though the commercial, of course, was done with humor, it says a lot about how we have gone from a modest preparations and fasting to maybe when I grew up, a little Advent Fika, to, you know, the big food bonanza that now is the Advent celebrations. And that's all fine and dandy, right? Or is it? Well, I don't know. Because the thing is, when you have all this pressure, it also becomes more stressful and less mindful. And for me at least, and I'm talking to a lot of you Swedes out there that are stressed right now, I think this is a good time to just take a few steps back and maybe just settle for glögg and gingerbread cookies, because that's really tasty and it's quite nice too. So for everybody that feels that it might be time to take a few steps back, create a less stressful and more mindful Advent Fika or Advent celebrations, I am here to give you my best tips, because this is how I've learned to do it, and taking away the stress and made it more mindful. So number one, something to drink. So preferably I would say that the glögg is a proper beverage to serve during an Advent Fika. So glögg is sort of a sweeter version of mulled wine, I would say. And we serve it with raisins and almonds. And yes, those are a must. And I think this is the only time where we substitute coffee for glögg, even though sometimes coffee might be served as well. Another beverage that is perfect for the Advent Fika is something called julmust, which is a Swedish soft drink, I think you call it. And if I would try to describe it, it's a mix between beer and Coca-Cola, but a little bit more fruity, I think. As Swedes, we love it, but I've heard from a lot of non-Swedes that it tastes super weird. I don't know, you tell me. Number two, what to eat, or the food. And I think this is where we need to take a few steps back. For me, to, you know, keep the mindfulness in the Swedish Advent Fika, I decided a few years back that I'm going to limit myself to three sort of categories. One cookie, one soft cake or bread of some kind, and one type of candy, at least if I'm going to make it myself. And one cookie, of course, is the Swedish gingerbread cookie, one cake with saffron, and then one type of candy, which is usually some kind of soft caramel or what we call knäck. That is how I try to limit myself. Sometimes I substituted one of these for something more salty or food-ish, or I've just asked some of my guests to do a potluck Advent Fika, which is when everybody brings something to the Advent Fika. And I think that is a really, really good thing to keep the Swedish Fika or the Advent Fika a little bit more mindful. Because the thing is, no one is going to thank you when you cry yourself to sleep the day before your Advent Fika or the day before your Christmas celebrations. Advent and Christmas is not about that, and that is why I'm sort of obsessing about the mindfulness in this Swedish Advent Fika. And this also brings me to number 3 and 4, which is you need a calm and happy mindset and a smile. And number 4, some nice Christmas music. And that's pretty much it. Yes, I know, number 3 and 4 are super corny. But the thing is, it's also true. So why am I pushing this so hard today? Well, maybe you can guess it, but I come from a place, a few years back, when I chased that perfection like a crazy person. I had to have new clothes, super nice new decorations, the house had to be spotless, everything had to be perfect. And I had to serve an abundance of food to be the perfect Christmas hostess. But what did it make me? Super unhappy, really stressful, and filled with anxiety. And I don't think anybody's gonna thank you or me when we cry ourselves to sleep the day before the Advent Fika or the day before Christmas. It's just not worth it, and it's not fun. And if it's not fun, it's not worth it. That's my motto. So guys, that was it for today. Some history behind Advent preparations and celebrations and how it's sort of changed to what it is today, as well as a few tips of the Swedish Advent Fika. If you like this episode, give me a thumb up and subscribe if you haven't. I hope I see you tomorrow. I'm gonna talk about jultomten. Yes, you Google that if you don't know what it is. And until I see you next time, God jul!